Have you seen like nearly every self-help book out there trying to teach you how to get the life you want? Well, we're not going to talk about that today. In today's episode, we're going to be discussing how to want the life you get, kind of the opposite. This is the Existential Stoic
I like that.
Podcast. I'm Randy. That's Danny. What's going on, Danny?
What's up, Brandy? I actually, when you said this, it took me a second to realize what the phrase is actually saying,
Hmm.
whatever. But it's funny because I think that a lot, you know, I think when we're younger, it makes sense to have like pie in the sky dreams, right?
Sure.
Everybody does. And I think that's actually a good thing because I think it pushes you to to do more and whatever and try things. But I think as you get older, like there's also that realization that like we're all average. Like pretty
Hmm.
much everybody is average. And I think it's funny, like we all are different. So we have like there's unique things about us, but like by and large, most people can do most things. And so it's interesting. And I think it is a good idea to also like take stock of your own life and want that life and not want something else. Because that constant wanting of something else is what's all the depression and anxiety and all the struggle. When a lot of times what we have, I think, is not that bad.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Because wanting and lacking and all of those things just keep your focus on what you don't have. And by definition, this moment, you're never going to have it.
No.
But the strange thing is if you practice wanting or lacking, then by the time you actually get what you want, you don't appreciate it and you're just on to wanting and lacking the next thing.
Yeah, it's like a constant cycle, right? That you just
Hmm.
keep repeating. And I think especially with respect to our lives, it like snowballs. Because like I've caught myself in this when I was like, and this is talking about years and years ago, but I remember feeling really depressed and stuff, and then looking at all these things externally that like other people had and like whatever. And then you just keep upping the ante because there's no level, there's no limit to what you could want, right? And you miss the fact that like so much of that was luck, circumstance, and all these other factors that like
Hmm.
it can't happen to everybody. It just can't. Like,
Yeah. I think there is definitely some part luck in all of it. And there's like the survivorship bias where the people who actually are successful, they don't realize how much luck contributed to it. Because they're like, oh, if you just
no.
grind and work hard, you'll get it. I mean, it worked for me. And it's like, yeah, well, what about all those other people who grinded and worked hard and it didn't work for them? So,
All the tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands in the same time period that you were in.
mhm, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely. So it kind of it makes you wonder because we all just have the life that we have right now. Like I keep thinking about this, how we imagine that life is going to be something in the future, but it's not because all that it ever is what's here right now. And so like
Right this
why
moment. Yeah.
why bother being discontented with what's here right now? Because what's here right now is all you're ever going to have. Like sure, maybe you can do
Yeah.
some stuff that might change some things in the future, maybe, but it's really more important to probably just be content with how things are.
Well, you know what's funny too? Like just over the last couple of weeks, we got like a lot of snow and stuff. So I took like a big break from doing stuff. And like I always feel better when I do that because I focus more on like what's around me rather than on like trying to get those things done for those future things and trying to get this done better and trying to set up this and whatever, right? And like I had that realization this week where I was like, God, I gotta stop doing that because it's just I make myself miserable. Whereas like I'm actually happy now and there's no point to like, like
Yeah.
make anything worse out or make it worse than it is. It's kind of
Yeah.
silly, but we
Yeah.
do it to ourselves.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Uh, there's what is this other? So like it's really interesting because you look all over social media, all over like self-help books, and they're all about like getting this life that you want. And there's something to be said. Like you and I both have been through times where we were not living a life that was really what we wanted.
No.
And so it is helpful to in on one hand to do it, but not kind of by sacrificing yourself.
I think it's like a catch 22, right? It's on the one hand, it's like realizing that can be very beneficial because it can help you, just like when you're younger, it can help you motivate you to make those changes that are going to make your life now better. But it also has to be realistic changes, right? And it has to be realistic things. Otherwise, you set yourself up for more failure and more misery, and then just being stuck in the situation you're in. So it's
Hmm.
like, yeah, if your job's horrible, changing jobs is a very realistic thing anyone can do. that can make life a lot better, or learning something new, or picking up new hobbies, whatever. And I think those are the kind of things that can help us in the now, but you're still focused on now, right? You're trying to improve your regular day, not some future ideal of like whatever.
Yeah.
It's funny, we've been reading the Tao Te Ching, and I think so much applies from that because it is like just trying to like be present and enjoy what life is and not trying to constantly push against it, which I think that's
Hmm.
like our whole culture is pushing against the flow of the universe.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, it's
insane.
interesting. Like the Tao Te Ching talks about it. I've also been listening to The Strangest Secret by I think Earl Nightingale. And he talks about how like all you need is a purpose and faith, and that's it. Like if you wait long enough with a clear vision in your mind, it'll transpire. And like we did that for a while where we would like write down goals and then almost without even working on them,
Yeah.
they would transpire. And it's really interesting when that happens because it's like I didn't do anything, but I guess I wrote down a goal and it ended up happening. And maybe it isn't much more than that.
Well, they say, right? Like they say, writing down your goals, you're 40% more likely to realize it, which is insane for the act of writing them down, if you think about it, because it's doing very little.
Hmm.
But I think it's also just like, I think it's also too that just like we don't know when those things are going to come, those opportunities. And the only thing we can do is be prepared to, take advantage of them when they happen. And
Yeah.
then that's it, right? But you don't know when it's going to happen. But I think if you do, if you do well and focus on now and you're like, think about it, if you're more happy with things now, you're going to be more likely to want to take those opportunities when they come. You're going to be more
Hmm.
likely to engage with people, and those opportunities are going to be created. And I think we forget that as well. Like it's so easy. This grind culture is funny because I think it's very like individuals heads down working, but they're not looking around them and seeing what's around them. So they're also missing things like interactions, opportunities that they might not have even thought of. It's like that single-minded focus is not always beneficial.
Hmm. Yeah. Like I find it really interesting on that same level, like being aware because I run into a lot of famous people, not because I'm trying, but just because like I'm not on my phone all the time and I'm just walking around and I'm looking and
And you
you
see
cross
them.
like living in cities, you cross paths with people all the time. And so like I go up to them, I say
Yeah.
hi, I get a picture with them. But it's like people are like, "Oh my God, how do you meet these people?" And it's like, "Well, I don't walk around like with my nose buried in my phone. I just walk around and I look and there they are."
Yeah, anytime you're in a major city, the chances of seeing somebody like known is not that, it's pretty high. I
Hmm.
mean, especially like you're in the center and stuff.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
most people don't look up.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is funny. And I think this is something we all struggle with, right? It's like being aware of what's around us and enjoying those things around us is very hard. It still blows my mind how easily we take for granted the things most important in our lives all the time. Like our friendships, our loved ones, right? It's so easy to be push them aside because we think they'll always be there. And,
Yeah.
focus on these things that
Yeah.
we
Our
think will
health, our
help.
mental capabilities,
Yeah,
all of that stuff. Yeah.
we just push it to the side. Yeah.
Hmm. Now, I think the more challenging part, though, is how do you want the stuff in your life that you may not like the things that aren't working out in your favor, the things that may be painful or uncomfortable. How do you actually want that?
That is the hard part, right? I mean, like, especially if you're unhappy with stuff. I think that's where like maybe it's a balance. Like looking at like, I'll use an example. Say like you have a job you don't like, because I think that's a common one that a lot of people have, right?
Hmm.
It's like a balance. Like, okay, well maybe take a step back and look at it. Is it paying the bills? Are you able to survive on it? Does it give you time to spend with the people that you do care about or to do things you do care about? Because if it does, that's not a terrible thing then, right? I mean, and that gives you opportunities too to change it too in the future, because that means you have some time that you could do other things if you wanted to. So I think maybe it is kind of looking at it kind of like that, like kind of taking a different type of assessment, not like I hate this, I need to get X, Y, Z, or I need, to 10x my wealth or whatever. And instead looking around and asking like, well, what what does this allow me to do? Instead of like, what does it lack? And
Hmm.
kind of thinking of it that way, and maybe that could help us get to that place better.
Yeah. It's also, I was listening to this thing by Alan Watts this week. He was talking about how if you look backwards in your life, it all makes sense. But when you're here where you are
Yeah.
right now is oftentimes very confusing. And
Yeah.
he's like, the river, it never worries, am I going in the right direction? And
Yeah.
so it's like in that same way, how it all kind of makes sense in the future, even all the suffering and all the terrible things that are going on right now, to make your future happen, they're necessary. And it's
Yeah.
only a human quality where we ask, am I going the right direction? Is this the right choice? Should I leave this job? Should I change this thing? When really that could just be the fabric of life.
Yeah. And really, in the end of the day, it doesn't even matter, which is the funnier part. I think about this a lot too, which is like, I like to ask myself, because like, you're right, right? Like, we're very good at telling the story of our lives from the past to now. And we're very good at reinterpreting things all the time that were bad into good things because they made something happen. And it's also like that recognition that all parts of our lives are necessary for who we are now. And so I like to always think too, like, yes, if I look back on my life with the knowledge I have now, sure, I would have made different choices when I was 17 or 18 or whatever. I think a lot of us would have. But then at the same time, that would have fundamentally changed my life. So I wouldn't have all the things that I have now that I really do like. I mean, I wouldn't be able to predict the changes that would have happened, right? Like, I mean, it could have been totally different fingers, totally different. So I think that's also a good way to look at it is like, what do you really like in your life now? Focus on that and realize that all that stuff was necessary for that to happen,
Mm.
for that meeting to happen, for that person to become part of your life, whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, there's like a saying that with every blessing comes a burden. And I guess like by definition, with every burden should come a blessing as well. So maybe learning to recognize what blessings come along with those burdens. Like
Yeah,
I know in areas where I struggle, like it's like that stuff that David Burns talks about with the positive reframing. It's like how do I look at it in a positive manner? Like these areas of my life that cause me a lot of suffering, it's because those are important to me and because like I value
yeah,
those things and they're just not up to par. So it actually, even though it's a burden, it comes with a blessing, and the blessing is something like that. And I think, when you look at these people who are like super successful, have all this money and good looks and all these things, it's like we can see the blessing very easily, but we have no idea what
yeah.
the burden is.
Well, we don't know anyone's life. That's the problem, right? Like we never get the whole picture. You only get, and even like, it's funny because even when you read like biographies and stuff, you don't get the whole picture. You never get the whole picture. It's impossible. You're not that person.
Hmm.
And so I think that's the other like fallacy we engage in when we do that is like, we're cherry picking, right? We're looking at good things, like you said, we're looking at the blessings. We're not looking at any of the burdens. We're not looking at the rest of life. Like, what do we even want that? And I think there's another important thing is like perspective's so important, right? Like, reframing things, trying out different ways of looking at things to find what works for you. Because that could also like, I think a lot of times when we're depressed, anxious and stuff, it really is just perspective. And if we can learn how to be flexible with that, we can be much more flexible with our lives and happier.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, because I was reading Feeling Great Again. Because the past couple of weeks I had like a really rough couple of weeks and it just came out of
I had a rough,
nowhere.
dude, I had a rough February too, and I don't know why. I
Yeah.
think it's just this time of year or whatever. It's always just, because you know what it is? I think it's like that excitement of the new year. And then you're like, ah, crap, it's still the same.
Yeah, and then
You
you
know,
have
because
3 months
it
of like torture and winter weather and all that stuff.
is. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it came out of nowhere. And so I was trying something new where like normally before I go to sleep I read fantasy or science fiction, but I was like, okay, I'm gonna read some positive stuff like Feeling Great before I go to sleep. And so he has one chapter on depression and one chapter on anxiety. And they're both about looking at like basically negative predictions about the future that we make. Like depression says that things are bad, they're never going to change, they're never going to get better.
Yeah.
And anxiety says something bad's about to happen. And so they're both like predicting the future, but we can't actually prove that they're true. And it was just really helpful to be able to look at that. Like I love his books because they're very practical in that when you're feeling down, you can read it. And after, 10, 15 minutes, you're like, oh yeah, I'm just, listening to negative voices again.
No, they are.
It's
They
really
are
not
very
making
good. Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
Well, they're very like, yeah, they are. They're very practically oriented and actionable
Hmm.
and it's not just a bunch of like, it's not a bunch of filler or a bunch of like research that really is important but has nothing to do with like you actually getting help now, which I really
Hmm.
like about them.
Yeah.
They're very well written. Yeah.
And
It
another
is
thing that
funny.
he talked about in that
Okay.
book was like he talks about the cost benefit analysis of these things. So in the chapter on depression, there was a guy who was like really down on himself, and but it turned out that there were a whole bunch of reasons why feeling bad was actually good. And I noticed myself, I catch myself in that all the time. It feels like bittersweet. Like I'm like, poor me. And then, but it feels good to be like, oh, poor me, I'm the victim in this situation. And so like a lot of those things are just helpful for me to really figure out or to see.
Hey, look, the reality is though, the existentialists all talk about this too. It feels good to push responsibility off ourselves, right? It
Hmm.
feels good not to own our lives a lot of times because it makes it feel like all that stuff, those bad things we don't have to worry about because they weren't our fault, right? Or that we didn't have any like ownership in it. And so it is very easy to do that, I think, to get into
Hmm.
that mindset of like, oh, I'm a victim or like, poor me or whatever.
Hmm.
And I think we just it'll work against that too. And that's the hard part, right? We
Yeah.
have to like, it is, you have to be, in a sense, you have to be more on top of yourself to be aware of what you have that's positive now than, to be negative. It's kind of weird, but that's the truth. Like,
Hmm.
and I think we just need to be more present because our whole world forces us to constantly look at what we don't have and to project and to like just adopt all these habits that are really unhealthy
Yeah.
for, living a good life.
And recognizing that it's all temporary anyways. Like these
Yeah,
feelings, depression and elation and everything, they all just come and go. Like even though people's lives may be working out now, I mean, just look at MC Hammer. Like there was a time when he was on top of the world, and probably
top
if
of
you
the
would have
world,
asked
dude.
him or anybody else, they would have been like, he's gonna be like this forever. And he's not, you know?
No,
And
he's
so it's
broke.
like things come and go, and it's just helpful to remember that when they're not good.
Well, it's like we talked about before too. I think it's our notion of happiness is so screwed up too.
Hmm.
Because it's this idea of like everything's great all the time. It's like a manic state. Like
Yeah.
you're on speed and
Uh-huh.
just like totally enjoying every moment and like partying all the time. It's like that's joy or elation or mania or something. That's
Yep.
not happiness is like your whole life. It's
I
it's gonna have ups and downs.
Yeah, I don't remember where it was from, but I remember reading somewhere that someone was saying that like it's the pursuit of happiness or wanting to be happy that causes us misery. And it's just
Yeah,
like that's the craziest thing because like everywhere we're inundated with this concept that we should be happy. And because of that we're miserable. Whereas if instead it just didn't matter. Because even like the enlightened masters and everything, it's not like they're happy. They're just kind of at peace. And it's just like,
yeah, yeah,
well, if you're at peace, then that's cool. If you're not happy, if you're miserable and you're not pushing it
yeah.
away, well, then that's fine.
And if you're what the idea too is I think like the good life, right? Like if you're balanced internally, the bad things in life you can deal with a lot better. Same with the joys, right? And I think it's like less of a roller coaster where like the rest of us it's these peaks and valleys.
Yeah.
It's funny. Emmanuel Kant even said it. I remember he writes, he says, if nature wanted us to be happy, an instinct would have been better. Reason's like a terrible tool for it. So
Hmm.
he says that clearly isn't like the goal because, reason's not equipped for that. Like rationality is not really equipped for happiness because it's
Hmm.
a fleeting thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like Buddha, he just taught not clinging. So like
Yeah.
if your happiness will come and go, sadness will come and go. Just don't cling to it. That's it.
It's our biggest problem though, right? We cling.
Yeah.
We latch onto these things and we get in this like misery cycle
Yeah.
when there's really no reason. Yeah, it's
Just
kind of
call me
funny.
Saran wrap because I'm busy clinging.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a
So
good spot.
yeah. So I guess that's kind of most of things for how to want the life you get. The crazy thing is that you can't live any other life. Like I
No.
again, so like I remember maybe it was Let Them Theory, Mel Robbins or something like that, where she was just like, we tear ourselves up about these things that we want to change. But literally, if it's something you can't make a positive impact in like the next 30 seconds, is really something that you can't change in your life. Like period. So
Hmm,
it's not even worth worrying about at that point because there's nothing you can do.
no. Well, this is the funny thing. I think this is where like people when we spend all this time worrying, we don't do things that are like good, like hobbies and like enjoying our time that we have because that's where opportunities do pop up too that you'll never expect. And I think it's like we don't know where things are going. We can't create a fixed map. We don't know when we're gonna die, right? So it's like, aren't we better off enjoying the time we have now
Hmm.
than being miserable constantly and like then just dying miserable? But you don't take anything with you,
Yeah.
right? None of this stuff matters afterwards. It's kind of
Dude,
funny.
and in the scope of the universe, like no life, like
No,
even the most
no,
successful life possible
means
doesn't
nothing.
matter. You know, like dinosaurs were
Dude, in
around
the
for
scope of 100
millions of
years, it
years. Yeah.
barely matters.
Yeah,
You know, I
exactly.
mean, think about it. Like,
Yeah, the most famous person ever, a couple hundred years ago, Ben Franklin. Nobody cares. You
no,
know? Yeah.
he's a footnote, right?
Uh-huh.
I think Steve Jobs all the time, I think it's so funny. He's a great example, right?
Hmm.
Because he was like king of the world when he was alive, and now it's like nobody even cares. They're on to everybody else.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
it's kind of
definitely
our
freaking
attention
nuts.
spans are not long either.
No. No.
Yeah.
So there you have it. How to want the life you get, because guess what? That's all you get.
This is
Uh,
the life you get.
this is
It
it.
is it.
Yeah.
You're living it.
Yep. So this is the Existential Stoic Podcast. Until next time, I'm Randy. That's Danny. I'll see you later, Danny.
Later, Randy.